Okay, all you people complaining your heritage is being taken away when they're taking down Confederate soldiers' statues that does not have the facts of what traitors they were and what bigots they were, who are saying we're taking away your heritage when we're taking away the flag, the Confederate flag. All right. Because you're too illiterate to go read a history book. A place where the stories about these Confederates are lied about. You're lucky. You've got a history book to read about the lies about who your Confederate soldiers were. Us Native Americans don't have a history book to read about our history. Our children in the schools are not taught about our history. So who's wiping out whose heritage? The African Americans who fought in wars, who fought for America, and who were enslaved in America don't have statues, don't have flags. They don't have any history books they can go read about their history. So who's really wiping out the history of a whole group of Americans? Same goes for the Latino Americans. Did you know California used to be part of Mexico? You know, all the people that lived in California didn't just pick up and go back to Mexico when America took it over. Same thing with parts of Texas. People on that land became Americans, so their heritage should be shown too. We should be showing Mexican statues of the heroes from them wars, right? Right? We should be flying their flags too. Because otherwise you're wiping out their history. But do you teach about that in the schools in history books? Do you teach about the Asians who came here to America and how they were treated in the history books? Do you have statues of the Asian people who came here, who helped build the railroad system? Do you have statues of those heroes? They were at least coming to America to become actual Americans. But you don't have statues of them. Why is that? Whenever you erect a statue of soldiers out there doing something on the battlefield, even in Vietnam, how many of them statues have a black man, a Latino man, an Asian man, a Jewish man in them? How many of them? Or how many of them have just people who look white? You want to talk about wiping out heritage? If every person on the world died out right now, and some alien being was to come to America, they would think that 99 and 9/10% of the American population was nothing but white. They would think that it was only white people who were heroes by their statues. If every other form of educational information was wiped out other than the statues, who do you think they would think inhabited America? Would they think it was the Native Americans, or the African Americans, or the Latino American, or an Asian American, or a Jewish American? Huh? So you've wiped out a whole group of people who inhabit this land. You wiped out their history. They may find a Native American here and a Native American there. Might be lucky to find a tucked away African American. They won't find an African American, a statue of an African American in chains, though, now will they? Being sold off by some white man, now will they? They won't be finding any Asian people being whipped while they're pounding in spikes for the railroad, now will they? They won't find that. They'll find your whitewashed version of history in the statues on our land. They won't find a statue of King Henry or George or a British soldier. They're part of our history too. So why don't we start erecting statues of all the kings who were in power as you white people came here and wiped out the Native Americans? Why don't you, in fact, set up a beautiful memorial showing wagons of white men circling a Native American village, shooting the innocent people of that village in the first drive-by shootings in America? Why don't you show that? Huh? Why don't you show statues of children being forced to go to white man's school and wipe out their own heritage? Why don't you show that? Why don't you show the master bringing the whip down on the black man's back? Why don't you show the white man hanging the black man from a tree? Because that's all part of our history. Why don't you show in statue Custer's last stand? The systematic slaughter of the Native American people. You don't show that. But you're saying that we're wiping out your history of the traitorous Confederate because we're taking down your freaking statues, whitewashed statues, and we're insisting the American flag represents America. You're a bunch of hypocritical bigots. You want your statues back up? Fine. Put them back up, but put a plaque on the true history about the people in that statue. And you start erecting statues of Native American people, the African American people, and the Asian people, and the Jewish people of this nation who have contributed much more to this nation than your Confederates have. Why don't you contribute the facts to all of history? How's that sound? You want your history? Fine. But make sure it's factual. Make sure the next generation little children are not going to grow up seeing the traitors of the United States of America as heroes. Because they're not. They're nothing but traitors. So why don't you make sure they know that instead of your whitewashed, bigoted bullcrap?